In the name of God, praise be to God, and prayers and peace be upon the messenger of God. Do you think the Jews in America, the Americans, the Jews will choose in the next elections in America, presidential election, they choose Trump and they don't choose Harris. They choose the Republican Party and not the Democratic Party. Before we answer the question, can someone say, I swear? What is this question? Its importance. I mean, we didn't have an invitation. They chose whomever they chose in the end, as they say, two sides of the same coin. Does that mean Harris or Trump? The two men are supporters of the Zionist entity, so there is not much difference with Muslims knowing this information. Some people say that this means concern about non-Muslims, and therefore what? There is no need to delve into it or waste time listening to theorizing about it. In fact, before answering the question, I say, who do the Jews choose? Who are the dragons? I am the first to answer a question about an important or unimportant topic. The real issue, our brothers, is very important because whether we like it or not, America is included in our calculations. It has a direct impact on the issues of the entire world in general and on the issues of the Middle East in particular. It has an impact on our issues in Palestine, our issues in Lebanon, Syria, Sudan, anywhere in the world. At the same time, we have an ongoing relationship with the Jews. Whether we like it or not, they are still occupying Palestine, occupying the Golan, and occupying the Sheba farms in Lebanon. They still have very major escalations, and we see the events in Gaza and the global Jewish influence interconnected with each other, as all of them in the end affect on the whole. I mean, the issue is important to us, date. The second point is also important. It's not. Two actions are two sides of the same coin. The major parties, the Democrats and Republicans, or their representatives, Trump and Harris, exhibit significant similarities in many respects. However, differences exist between the parties and their leaders' personalities. This could impact the Muslim community in the future. Moreover, staying informed on these issues remains consistent with the Prophet's PBUH teachings. Because people also think that we are talking about politics in these parts. This is a little far from legal speech or religious speech. I am telling you that the Prophet, may God bless him and grant him peace, has been since his sunnah to follow up on such events. I mean, as Al-Bukhari narrated on the authority of Abu Bakr, he said, when the Messenger of God, may God bless him and grant him peace, reported that the people of Persia had a daughter of Khosra as king over them. When the rule in Persia changed and the ruler became Buran bint Kasra, and this was the first time in the history of Persia ruled by a woman, he said it would not succeed. Get up and let a woman take charge of them, so that means you talk about the issue. It is not for the one who said the issue to him, we have nothing to call. What is happening in Persia, even though at that time there was no intersection, he is still with the Persian state, but he is interested in the events that exist in the world as well. He knew who was ruling Abyssinia, and before a problem occurred among the Muslims in Mecca, and when a problem occurred among the Muslims in Mecca, he said to his companions that in the land of Abyssinia there was a king who would not oppress him, so follow his country until God made him a relief. He is a way out of what you are in. He is also a student of the country around him. Where is Abyssinia? In Mecca. At that time, there was no political intersection, no transactions between the two countries or between them. It wasn't. He still has a state. The Prophet, may God bless him and grant him peace, was just a group of people. Some of the believers are present in Mecca, and Mecca is considered a village in the world, but he follows world events, and one day he benefited from this information and said to his companions, go to the land of Abyssinia. At a time when political knowledge of Abyssinia was crucial, the choice of refuge was not arbitrary. It highlighted the Prophet's PBUH understanding of the global political climate. The situation could have been different if it involved another region such as Yemen or the Roman Persian states. Thus, thorough awareness of the surrounding political scenarios remains imperative. They choose the Republican Party and they don't choose the party. If I think like this mentally and logically on paper, and now from afar I say, why would they choose the Republican? Because the Republican Party is a conservative religious party, linked very clearly to the Jews, meaning they have relied on the support of Protestants for them over the long years. We saw the support of England and then the support of America. And why are the two Protestants? Because Protestants see that if Christ, peace be upon him, will not descend at the end of time to win, except when a state for the Jews is established. This is their belief in the state of the Jews in Palestine, and therefore they support Zionism and support the establishment of a state for the Jews in the land of Palestine. It is logical in our imagination that the Jews choose the religious, conservative, Protestant, Republican Party that supports the existence of a state in the land of Palestine. At the same time, Trump is also clear that he means wanting to tighten more, and he blames Biden for not helping the Jews enough. We can imagine that the American voter, the Jew, means that he needs Trump to come to resolve the issue. Instead of the issue sitting for a year in the war, and the more he comes, he supports the Jews more in Palestine. And thus they will conclude the Battle of Gaza or the Gaza war faster, as well as the issue of Lebanon. His opinions are fiery on this issue, Trump, and therefore A. I mean, the Jews can choose him if I were to leave a house like this. But tempting, very strange information. The Jews in America will choose Democrat. They will not choose the Republican by a large percentage. I mean, this is their history, this is their reality, and this is their near future. God knows. After that, events will change in any direction. Why? Why do Jews choose the Democratic Party, which is less strong in the text of their support in Palestine than the Republican Party, which is enthusiastic about this support in Palestine? Before focusing on my position, let's examine the differences between the Republican and Democratic parties. In America, of course, there are very old parties, some of the oldest political parties in the world, and they are the ones that control politics in America. The two have other small marginal parties that remain alongside them. You are the two basic countries in America. The Republican Party is the conservative white party. Of course, it means differences sometimes, but basically it depends on white racism. The white people who exist in America depend on the countryside. It does not depend on the cities, it depends on the countryside, the peasants and the simple people who are there. In general, he tends to be a conservative in the economy. He is very conservative, meaning he does not enter the economy approximating very simple laws. He does not want to place any restrictions on the capitalist economy. Whoever wants to trade and works, does not place restrictions and adheres to the traditional value system. I love the issue of family, the issue of church, the issue of religion, the issue of moral issues. Hafez. It must not allow abortion. He is also a strong racist. He does not like immigration. He does not want anyone to immigrate to the country. To America, Wiggy, the white form is famous for America, or nature-owned identity. The original and most religious people churches belong to it with the support of the Republican Party. And they also rely on the owners of major capital, even if it means they are marginalized and very committed. But they love the Republican Party because it tells them to work at your leisure. They have no restrictions on owners of capital, so they like to support the party, the Republicans. For example, a supporter of Trump's business, he loves that if he stays comfortable, the laws under the Republican Party will be more comfortable for him as an economist. The Democratic Party is different. In the end, of course, the two races are capitalists and the two are Americans. And the two races have a similar point of view, but it is different in some points. Or the liberal is liberal. I mean, I have no call for religion. I do not want restrictions. Religion is pure in calculations, and at the same time, he depends on the people of the city, loves minorities, supports minorities, and because he is a liberal and loves minorities, it supports the middle class and the poor class. Because of this, minority people love it. You know, such as, for example, the African Americans, people of African descent who vote for a Democrat, like Muslims, like Arabs in general, like Jews, and they love minorities. Take this, the Democratic Party opens the doors to immigrants. They have no problem. On the issue of immigration, he embraces women's issues from his non-religious point of view. Women, for example, have the right abortion. Man's right hand is homosexual. I mean, he doesn't have religious restrictions. It does not exist. I am free from this topic. I rely on the poor class in this way. The middle class, the working class, and the classes that work in cities in general. And also the highly educated people who have high degrees, doctors, lawyers, degrees. They also choose the Democratic Party. Artists choose the Democratic Party. This is in general the difference between the two races. We return to the issue of the Jews. The Jews have a very important historical dimension which may differ with us. They understand the story in a period of America that was called the Great Depression. This Great Depression period was from the years 29,000 and 933. 4 years in America went through a very terrible economic crisis. They called it the Great Depression. The state almost collapsed. People lost their money that was in the banks, and there was no insurance for the banks. So why? If you are the bank and told you that you have no money, I have the central bank and it will not know how to pay you anything. It was a very, very big disaster. Unemployment rose in America from 4% to 25%. The salvation of the country would have expected their ignorance. Roosevelt, American president of the Democratic Party, did something for them called the New Deal. Is very famous in American history. This New Deal was based on three things. The first thing is relief, which is not named, the three alphabets of in Arabic. The relief of the afflicted people who warned that they were affected by this Great Depression came in the year 33, made these words. The second need, which is called sustenance or recovery, is a revival of the economy, which is affected by the small companies that were closed, and he returns to try to do it again. The revival of the economy, which fell as far as possible in what exists, the package and the need. The third one was done by reforming the economic system in a way that will not return again. He is exposed to this issue. His laws succeeded, a very impressive success, and America emerged from our crisis and sat down. The Democratic Party won after that for several decades because of this issue. They took 7 presidencies out of 10 until the year 69 of the year 336,110 times the presidential elections of the Democratic Party took 7 Jews. At that time they were immigrants to America. At the time of this Great Depression, America was greatly removed from Europe as a result of the great persecution they were exposed to in Europe, so they immigrated to America. Most of the Jews who were immigrants from the poor middle class benefited greatly from these laws and were greatly influenced by the Democratic Party, and from that time on. They are connected to the Democratic Party, very, very connected. The second aspect is the intellectual and religious orientation of American Jews. Imagine that the Jews in America are all one block, the same. Israel rises, stands, triumphs, and spreads. And the Jews in America are 10% Orthodox. I mean, I am religious, right? Devlet with the Zionist entity with all its might. Their heart, their capabilities, their thinking, their plans, everything. And 90% of American Jews are secular. Religion makes no difference to them. They are business. The important thing is a stable life. The important thing is this. These are the Jews who are there. The 2020 elections, American Jews, 68% of whom voted for Democratic Biden in the last 20 elections. These are the last elections before the one we are in now, and 28%. But they voted for Trump. The elections were Biden, and Trump took 68% of the Jews. Trump took 28%, and the rest is a small percentage. Oh, her voice is ice cream, or several marginal parties. This is the situation at the same time. And most middle-class Jews in America, of course, in large capitals will probably go to the Republican Party because they love the Republican Party and the economic freedom that exists under it. But the general middle-class Jews are still looking for social justice, for equality, for civil rights, for security laws. All the needs are with the Democratic Party more than the party. Hence, both Republicans and Democrats vie for Jewish support. Jews are a minority. Minorities love, as we said before, the party. The Democratic Party does not have the racism that the Republican Party has. Okay, the last question in the episode. Is it possible that our words will also be directed by the events in Gaza and their relationship to the elections? I wonder if these words will affect the Jews and change their choices. It may have a very, very slight impact on the American voter in general, including Jews, and is not strongly marginalized, strong external affairs, no matter how fond the world is. Ukraine, Gaza, and all this talk will make a difference. What separates him from the laws of his life is inside America. Why does he care about the economy? He cares about social laws such as the issue of abortion, the issue of homosexuality, and these needs. He cares about health insurance, taxes. There are many things he lives in. The science he reads about outside is like that, I mean, passing readings in his public life. He may appear in a demonstration, in a march, he does not know what. He may be affected by two people in need from abroad, but he does not change the path of his life because the issue is external. In general, the American voter is very influenced by internal events rather than external events. The Jews in particular have been since the middle of the 80s. They do not talk about the issue of Israel, Palestine, which is not their concern. The issue has been strong since the middle of the exercises. Before that, they were interested in the topic 48 Prince A, 67, 73, and K, and during the peace negotiations, all these needs were there. Our market was very focused on this topic of wishes, the middle of which was approximately 2 centers with internal American affairs, and therefore these issues are no longer influential, and the events in Gaza may mean a little more than before, but in the end he may go out on a march and speak, but he will not. In the end he will sacrifice his economy, health insurance, taxes, and in America, because a special issue in Gaza, so it is possible that some voices were blaming Biden. The Jews support sufficient support as they want. It is possible for countries to go to the public, and the Republican is working on this now, but in the end there are some few votes, there are not many overwhelming votes. Young Jews to some extent are also sympathetic to the Palestinians in the marches that we see in the university. And words from this, but also in the end there is nothing effective that can change the policy. At the same time, we also have Trump himself, and there is nothing popular with the Jews. Even though he says that, I will support the Jews and complete my love for Gaza in 2 or 3 days, and all the words he says are, the Jews don't like Trump, they don't like him. Do you care? Because the first one is racist and white. His racist language is clear, and they remain very sensitive to the issue of racism throughout their lives. They are subjected to insults and harassment, and I don't know what to do, because they are Jews, even if they are of another race. Or it means another racism, another color, or another form. It means that people in the world, in the whole world, historically and realistically, have a sensitivity to people who are. Those who have this racism, including Trump. And the second need is that he is a tyrant. A tyrant. Why does he have an opinion on the one he wants to walk? Apart from why different opinions? And my air and my impression, so it doesn't scratch the one. Can he walk a certain path? Without enthusiastic study, they are concerned about this trend. They desire a stable, functioning system. He walks with what is volatile according to the vision of the man who is an antenna. This can change in an instant and remain against us, so they do not like this situation. This is the summary of the story of the Jews. And for this reason, in the end, the Jews also, with everything we see, will choose. In the end too, the Democratic Party may have a slightly lower percentage than in the 20 elections, but in the end, they will also choose the majority of the Democratic Party. What we see from the bottom line of the issue, what we see in the sympathy in the American street, in universities and in some forums with the events in Gaza, often does not change many events. The political situation will remain the same. And in the end, will Trump win or Harris? The two men won by supporting the Zionist entity, perhaps in varying percentages, but in the end, they support the Zionist entity. And the problem of Palestine will not be solved in the hands of Trump, Harris, the Democratic Party, Jews in America, Jews in the world, or anywhere else. It will only be solved. It rests in the hands of Muslims. We ask God Almighty to guide us and help us reclaim our rights. Peace, mercy, and blessings of God be upon you.